Hello, everyone. This is episode 15, our end of year episode. I'm joined with David, as always, and today we are going to talk about the end of year electric car deals and just this year in general, what this means for the EV industry, EV growth, new EV models on the road, and much more. So thank you again, everyone, for watching. And without further ado, I guess we can hop right into the most important fact of the day, which is that EVs this year made up around 10% of new car sales here in the US. That is a pretty big number. What do you have to say about that, David?
I think it's again showing that the headlines of EV sales declining are not really fully true, right? I think from what I looked at the numbers, it grew 20% year over year, whereas the last couple of years before that, it was growing 50% year over year. So it's still growing. It's just not growing 50% year over year, which wasn't going to be sustainable anyways when you start to get to these types of numbers, which are, I think we're right now well over 1 million new EVs being sold in the US every single year. So the thing that really gets me excited are all the new EVs that are hitting the road. And we had so many really awesome EVs hit the road this year. And I think it's going to start to appeal to many, many more people. So for sure, it's awesome to see. Yeah,
there's been tons of new electric car models that have hit the road this year. And I think some of the most notable are the Equinox EV, which I think is an excellent electric crossover with lots of range, 319 miles of EPA range. It has a decent amount of standard features, but I mean, most importantly, it's $35,000 and you get a $7,500 tax credit. I mean, you're talking $27,500 for a brand new electric crossover that has more than 300 miles of range. That's pretty crazy, and I don't think we should ignore that vehicle. And also, Model 3 refresh. I think that great car with the tax credit and referral bonuses, you can get it for around $35,000 to $36,000 brand new with all fees, which is incredible deal for a car with over 363 miles of range, 0 to 60 under 5 seconds. Like, it's pretty much do everything you want, but it is a little bit smaller than most other vehicles because it's a compact sedan. So I think that's a pretty crazy deal. Were there any new EVs this year that particularly stuck out to you?
Actually, I want to do a shout out to the Honda Prologue. It's basically a Chevy Equinox, but rebadged. And when we looked at the numbers, they're selling really well. The Honda badge carries a lot of weight. And actually, I saw it on the road recently during my holiday travels, and it looks like a really nice vehicle. It looks very, very capable. So I think for me, my pick would be Honda Prologue. Yeah.
Interesting. And they got good lease deals too. I think they were doing around $229 a month with $3,000 down, which is pretty good overall. And I think that was for the all-wheel drive one. So not a terrible lease deal. But yeah, I think the Prologue, its success should be noted by a lot of other automakers in like a similar position. Like even like we could say maybe Nissan. I know there's going to be some talks of a merger with them. It's interesting because the Nissan Ariya, which I really like, great car, I would argue that it's better than the Prologue in a lot of attributes, but it hasn't been selling anywhere near as well as the Prologue has. So it's just kind of interesting, kind of looking at that. And Nissan developed the Ariya from the ground up versus Honda, which co-made it with GM. So it's very interesting.
I think it just goes to show the type of consumers that are buying right now are more associated with brands and brand names than the actual story behind the vehicles themselves, because I know a lot of people that I've talked to is in general, they're like, oh, I've owned a Honda. They're like, Honda Civic or Honda CRV, fans for a really long time. They really like those vehicles. And yeah, they have no idea that GM actually has built that one versus Nissan, which I've owned a couple Nissans myself, and I think it's a great brand. I think they make some great vehicles, but I think it's just got a different perception to most people, where I think people think of Honda as reliable, and people think of Nissan as more flashy and more performance related because they've got cool cars like the GTR and that sort of thing.
Or those like beat up Ultimas that cut you off on the highway.
Yeah, pretty much. What I've found and learned, I think, in the last year is that people associate their own identity to which car they drive. And that means a lot. So, for me, the Honda Prologue is a great example of, I think, the brand Honda doing really, really well, and GM actually pulling through with a solid vehicle versus the Blazer release, which did not go so well. I think I think they hopefully learned a lot, and they made a lot of upgrades and updates with the Equinox.
Yeah, I mean, the Blazer had a really rough launch, and to be able to have pivoted, and I mean, because the Blazer's doing pretty well on its own. I don't know. I'm pretty impressed with their turnaround and sales and pretty much everything. And even both those cars, Prologue and Blazer, both have really good lease deals going on because both manufacturers have some pretty good incentives. So I think they're pretty good. My dad, he's considering maybe leasing a Blazer or buying one used in the next year or so. So it's going to be very interesting. Maybe I'll get some firsthand look at that car. Overall, nice. I think those two cars are pretty impressive. Another car that came out this year, which I had some less than kind words for earlier, was the Fiat 500e. But now I like it because you can lease it in Colorado for $0, which I think is a pretty good price considering the car's attributes. Yeah, I think the Fiat 500e is now a pretty, you should 100% consider it if you live in Colorado, because a car you literally have to pay like $1,700 in taxes, and then you get to drive it for 27 months, which I don't think is a bad deal.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I think it's like a no-brainer. It's like, if you have a space for another car in your house, just do it. It's like, why not? It's like, it's so cheap. You're literally just paying taxes on it. You're going to lose way more money if you buy even like a used Fiat, because that thing's going to depreciate a lot more. So I think that's the interesting thing too, is with these tax credits, is automakers and, well, I'd say more specifically, the dealerships are getting really creative, because like in Colorado, when you get a $7,500 leasing tax credit from the federal government and then $5,600 from the state, it's like that literally covers the lease price for like 2 years, because a 2-year lease is maybe around $10,000 to $15,000 all in, and it's like the tax credits alone can basically offset that price, so then the buyer can get the car for free, subsidized by the state and federal government. So we're seeing some trickery involved with that, and I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that was the cool thing to see, I think, in 2024, which I don't know how long it's going to last going into 2025, right? With the new Trump administration coming in and some of these incentives peeling back. But I think that the OEMs and the dealers have learned that EV leases are really, really valuable and are desired right now in the market over buying, because buying can be a bit of a big commitment for someone who's on the fence. Whereas leasing, right, gives you the flexibility to say, hey, after 2 years or whatever, I can always just kind of turn it back in. And right now, I think the magic number has always been for affordability, under $300 in monthly payments. And there's a ton of great options for EV leases under $300. It's pretty incredible, Well,
because even if you look at buying that car, even if Fiat was like, hey, we'll give you like $7,500 cash and cash incentive to purchase this vehicle and all this stuff, it's like, still, you're going to be buying that Fiat 500e for like $35,000 with taxes. Obviously, there's some incentives. You'll get that $5,600 state if you live in Colorado. So just say $30,000. You'll pay $30,000 for that Fiat 500e. That thing's going to probably be at most $15,000 in 2 years from now. Or you could have just leased it and literally just paid the taxes on it and then nothing else. So you would lose so much more money if you buy. And that's the thing too. We're seeing high depreciation with these electric cars, which I think is mainly due to lack of knowledge, misinformation. There's a lot of people who will tell you that an electric car battery will only last 3 years, which is totally not true. So I think there's people with these like preconceived misconceptions about electric cars, and that's kind of pushing the values down a little bit as well. Because like I think like we can see the Nissan Ariya, that car was $50,000, $60,000 brand new, and you can easily get those models used for like $20,000 to $25,000 right now, which I think is the steal of the century. You should 100% consider buying a used one. But I don't think that car should actually be that low in price, like, because you're basically paying Nissan Rogue money for a car that I would say is better in pretty much every single attribute. So it's really unfortunate, but it's also good for someone in the used market right now to just go ahead and buy something because there's great deals.
For sure, for sure. I don't know if it's worthwhile to also talk about things that have changed in the industry around like charging, because I
Yeah.
think that's been a big hurdle for a lot of people, even though we do know like 80 to 90% of people's drives or trips tend to be around town and don't really require more than, 100 or so miles of range. But it's for those that 10, 20% that sometimes people are like, I can't get an EV because say I go to my in-laws place, which happens to be, a little bit further away. But I think from my perspective, there's been a lot of positives in terms of EV charging in the last year. Iona just opened up, I think, their first station, which is a
Yep.
collaboration amongst OEMs.
I
And
was able to check that
uh,
out in person, which was pretty cool.
yeah,
And
and it
yeah, I
seems
think
like
Iona
they've
is going
done
to
it
be huge.
right. They've done it
Yep.
right. They've
Like
got a
they have
lot of
everything.
amenities.
It's
Yeah.
literally like a full service gas station. You go there, they have the little squeegees to wipe down your windshield, which is nice. It's covered, so you don't have to stay out in the rain. It's a really cool concept, and they have a goal of 30,000 charging ports by 2030, which is a massive goal. It's going to be pretty insane for them to accomplish that, but it's cool, and it's nice if we're getting more chargers out there with more amenities. And yeah, I think especially in some areas in California, there needs to be more chargers because you got like people in apartments, they get some good EV lease deal. They get their Volkswagen ID4 with their free charging. Volkswagen doesn't offer it anymore, but the period of the free charging is still active for a lot of buyers. And then they think they can just rely off of Electrify America station for all their driving, and it just will not work out that great. But if there were more chargers, I think it could work out a lot better.
Absolutely. I mean, thankfully, there's other players out there aside from the Tesla Superchargers and Electrify America. There
Yeah.
really needs to be more players out there. Rove is another honorable mention of what they're trying to do with their first station in Southern
Yeah.
California. And then I know Rivian the last couple of weeks started opening up their stations to non-Rivians, and people have been really excited because a lot of the Rivian stations are really well laid out, well thought of, that sort of thing. So I think it's overall looking up for people who've got that one concern of I take this one trip a handful of times every year and I just need to be able to do that. Well, I think in the next year or two, there's going to be a lot better options, for sure.
Yeah. And I think also looking at the year in review, we also have to mention Scout. I think that's a pretty
Yeah.
big news development happening. And I think it's also cool that we're seeing more range extended electric cars from the Ram Charger to the extended range Scout vehicles. Because I think that's definitely area of the market that, I mean, I like, you can make your debates against electric cars that it may not work for some people. I still think a lot of those arguments, like not everyone is
Yeah.
driving their boat across the country and needs a car with 800 miles of range. Like that just doesn't happen that much. I think there was a study that very few do people travel with trailers in their trucks, like distances greater than 100 miles. It just doesn't happen that much. And it's like people,
Yeah.
I guess maybe that's an American thing where people want something that they know just pure excess. Like you go to a McDonald's and you get like get like 5 Big Macs, and it's like, but that's just kind of the American thing. And it's kind of hard to take away that from people. Like, I guess if you got like an 800-mile range F-150, it's hard to go down to the electric one with like 300 miles of range, even though 300 miles of range is still more than you need for daily use. Anyway, that's an aside.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it though, right? It's weird to say that I'm going to pick this, say like, Ford 50 for the 5 times a year that I use it and have like terrible gas mileage for the entire time and spend a ridiculous amount of money on
Yeah.
this big truck. If you look at it, like some of those trucks cost about the same as an EV, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we got the new
Oh,
GM
yeah. If you get a
Silverado that's out.
Silverado,
Yeah.
easily 80, 90 grand. And here's the thing. If you want to have something to tow your airplane across the country, because everyone does that, how about this? How about you buy an F-150 Lightning, and then for that, circumstance when you need to do that, rent from U-Haul for $20 a day, and then you don't have to worry about maintenance, you don't have to worry about wear and tear, you don't have to worry about all this stuff, and it's like you can just do that. It's so easy. I think that's yeah. So
Yeah.
that's my little rant of the day. But I think I am 100% based in this, and everyone else isn't. So that's my point of view.
I agree with you. I think if people were to look at it and you were to look at how you actually use your vehicle and what you want to get out of it. For the 4 or 5 times that you're actually going to need more range because you happen to be towing something super heavy a long distance, just rent a vehicle, right?
Yeah.
For the most part, the other times, and going back to the Scout thing, I think they're, obviously taking a page from their partner's playbook, Rivian, and going after sort of like an adventure market of people who are just going outdoors with their truck and using it for activities. I think to me, it's like the Jeep Gladiator audience, if that makes any sense. And Jeep Gladiators do really well. People freaking love that car. Even though I'll admit I'm a Jeep fan, and I was confused of why Jeep was making a pickup truck, but I've seen them now, and I've seen a couple of them sort of fit out for off-road capabilities, and it looks actually kind of cool. So I think they're going after that, and to have like a Scout alternative. Wait, with the range extender, I think with the range extender, you still have about 100, even though it's a smaller battery, you still have about 100 miles full battery. Is that right?
I think it's more than that. I think they just said 500 total miles. I would assume probably more than 100. I don't know. I honestly don't know the specs, but yeah, I'll have to look into that because
for
I
just
think
the battery.
Ram Charger, because the Ram Charger is like 150 miles.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
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 But
so
yeah,
I think it's going to be in that ballpark, right? Like 100, 150, which again, that's going to be all you're going to really need.
Yeah.
Like, I think people are going to find out that they're barely using the generator. No.
Yeah, because even when I had my Chevy Bolt with 53 miles of range, which is pretty good for a plug-in hybrid, honestly, but like I rarely use the gas engine. I think I went through like 8 gallons of gas my full ownership experience. But yeah, and that's the thing. I think with the Ram Charger and the extended range Scouts, there is no reason to not like these cars because it can do everything. It is way more capable than your gas vehicle. And I think range extended EVs are perfect. And, and it's great too, because for the offhanded chance that you need to drive your nuclear reactor across the country, then you can use gas, like if you would in your F-150. So I don't know. We'll see. I think it's definitely going to be a big market, and I'm kind of looking forward, especially to the Ram Charger. I think that's going to be pretty cool, and hopefully that can kind of reignite the flame within Stellantis. So we'll see.
For sure. Cool. So yeah, I don't know if you want to move on to some of the year-end EV deals. Get them while they're still out there and the incentive's still active.
There's some really good EV deals going on right now. And I guess without further ado, we could hop right in. The first one, this is the big deal. I only put one lease deal in here because for some reason, the lease deals haven't been that great. Obviously, there's a VinFast VF8, which is always pretty good. That one's like $199 a month, but I haven't really driven one recently, so I have no idea what it's like. We'll put that aside. But the F-150 Lightning, which I haven't driven one, but I know it's a good car, because everyone who I know and respect who's driven one says it was good. So I guess we can go into that vehicle first. And if I'll share my screen here, we have a pretty crazy lease deal on this one. So this is $230 a month for 36 months with $6,200 due at signing. Yes, I know that's a way too much due at signing. I don't like it when they do these weird pricing things, but effectively the monthly price is $402 a month. So that's factoring in your down payment and your monthly price. And that's for an XLT standard range, which has about 240 miles of range, I think around 450 horsepower. But yeah, I think that's a great deal for about $400 a month. And yeah, because this is like a $60,000 truck that you're getting for about the lease price of maybe like a loaded up, maybe like a mid-level Explorer or something like that. But still 400 a month is really good. Do you have any thoughts on this one, David?
Yeah, no, I think again, like this is a great, if someone's like interested but don't want to fully commit to a Lightning, right? This deal is really good. The amount due at signing is a bit much. So I mean, we'll see. It's interesting though, on that same page you had below 0% APR for 72 months. So it's a longer commitment, but we know from talking to Dennis, people freaking love that 0% APR.
0%. So yeah, I think that's really great. This deal alone. And I mean, this is a cool truck. Like, I think this is really, it's expensive, brand new. But yeah, I think especially with its lease price. And the other thing too is you can get good deals on used F-150 Lightnings right now. So you can get them used in like the $35,000 to $40,000 range. I recently saw a 2022 XLT, which is the exact same trim as this, with 12,000 miles for 37,000, certified pre-owned, which
Nice.
is a pretty good deal. So that's just something to consider too. Because like 402 is not cheap, but for what you're getting for a 60-some thousand dollar pickup truck, I think it's a pretty good deal and should be considered. So I think that was a pretty good deal. And like I said, at least for this list, we wanted to get some more unique vehicles in here rather than just like the usual. So I think this, if you're looking for electric pickup truck, F-150 Lightning in terms of leasing is it. Cybertruck is like $900 a month to lease with something crazy down. I don't even know what it is down. I think it's like 6,000 or 7,000. I guess not that crazy in comparison to the Lightning, but way more monthly payment. So that was definitely a really good deal. F-150.
Yeah. And you can power your home off of the truck, like it's one of the few ones where you can feed power back in your house during a power outage. So, I mean, if you're thinking about like a if you're thinking about a generator, you put that money towards the money down on this thing, and you're sitting in a sweet spot. So yeah.
Yeah, I think I know someone who recently like put a generator on their house, and it was like, I forgot how much it was, but like $10,000 or $15,000, and it's like, it was like a natural gas generator, but it's like, for that much money, you could just put that towards an F-150 Lightning, and that generator on your house doesn't do 0 to 60 in 0.4 seconds. So
yeah,
that's something to consider.
For sure. Awesome.
And
what's the next one?
The next vehicle is the Equinox EV, and this one is a crazy lease price. For some reason, it's kind of hard to find. Because we pull this up real quick, but the Equinox EV is a really impressive one because of how low the price is. So Equinox EV, which I think is a pretty cool car, starts at $34,995 with destination fees, which is already a very low price. But the big thing about this car is the specials that GM is currently offering. So you get a $7,500 tax credit on this car straight up. So that means the total price of the car now is $27,500 with destination fees. So you're buying a brand new Equinox EV with 319 miles of range for $32,500. Or sorry, $27,500. And then you get a $1,500 incentive if you currently own or lease a 2010 or newer GM vehicle, which I think would encompass a lot of the population, and a $1,000 discount if you're a Costco member. So that means the total price on this car comes out to $24,995 brand new. And that's in addition. So you can get also, you can get dealer discounts on top of that too. So there was a dealer in Alabama doing another $2,000 off. So you can basically get that car for $23,000 brand new. So that's pretty insane.
Yeah, it's a good deal. Like we're saying, I think it's one of the standout vehicles that got released in 2024. So for sure. Just to note, again, for the Honda Prologue, I think right now there's a deal where you can get for $229 a month for 36 months and $1,299 down, so $1,300 down. That's a pretty good deal. So it's again, it's the same car as the Equinox, but just rebadged with Honda. It's limited to 10,000 miles per year. So if you
is
do
that
like
the
a ton
all-wheel
of
drive
miles,
one, the Prologue?
I
I think it was the EX all-wheel drive.
Yes, I believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
Which,
no, that's
so
right. I think it was
$1,300
down.
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
$1,300
down.
Yeah,
yeah. So that's a pretty good deal. Again, it's the same vehicle, just rebadged. So yeah,
that's crazy. Actually, dang.
Yeah.
Wow.
Cool. Yeah.
Next on the list is even crazier in terms of price. Not necessarily crazy in terms of the vehicle itself, but it is the Nissan Leaf, which you can buy right now. So, $29,000 MSRP, $29,280. That's with destination fees, because that's the thing. So many automakers have different price. Like BMW is $1,000 for destination. Ford is $2,000 for destination. There's no reason a Ford should be $2,000 for a destination fee, but I digress. Now, the Nissan Leaf $7,500 Nissan automotive cash, $1,000 bonus cash. You can get a brand new Nissan Leaf for $20,780. That's basically the same price as a Versa with cruise control, which is crazy. So I don't see any reason to buy a new gas-powered car when you have this deal for $21,000. Now, is the Leaf the greatest electric car? No, not at all. But what gas car are you going to get that's going to be better than that? And the answer is just
Better than
not
a
really
Versa.
anything.
I'll
Better
tell
than
you
a
that.
Versa.
Better than Versa. I mean, you can make the same argument. Like, who wants a Versa?
Yeah,
Right?
no one
If
wants a
it's the
Versa.
same price, I'd rather go with the electric one, right? I
Mhm.
mean, hands down, again, because of the maintenance and the ease.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not the greatest EV out there, but it'll get the job done, you know? And they have gotten a lot better since the original Leafs way back in the day. So,
Yeah,
for
they've
sure.
improved. Only issue, they still use a CHAdeMO charging standard, which, CHAdeMO, whatever, which is not ideal because like no one uses anymore. This is 2025. They should have replaced that with CCS way long ago. And it's weird too because the car is built in the United States, and so it's built in Tennessee, yet it has a CHAdeMO port on it, which is crazy. It should not be that way. This is an American car built in America. It should 100% have at least a CCS port. They should 100% be working on NACS now. Yeah, that's going to be
It'd be
probably need a lot of
interesting to
adapters for
see.
that car.
It'd be interesting to see if in 2025 they release a CHAdeMO to NACS adapter. I don't think that's possible, but hey, you know, for all you Leaf owners out there, let's keep praying.
Yep. But I think at least the good thing is at $20,780, you will have plenty of money to spend for charging adapters. So that is the good thing about this car. And next on the list is one of my most favorite. Sorry, it is probably one of my favorite new electric crossovers on the road. It's the Nissan Ariya. And I don't say it's my favorite because it's the best. I say it's my favorite because I think everyone kind of hates on it because its on paper specs aren't that great, but it performs better in real world. Like the charging is only at 130 kilowatts, but it will perform better than a Chevy Blazer, which is rated at 150 kilowatts in real world charging. So that's just one note. But the Nissan Ariya is $40,980 brand new. But like the Nissan Leaf, you get up to $8,500 in cash on the vehicle. So that brings the total price down to $32,480 for a brand new Nissan SUV. And keep in mind, this car isn't like crappy as a base model. You get leatherette seats, heated steering wheel, heated seats, Pro Pilot Assist, a ton of features. Like, it's a pretty nice car as standard. And like, you don't even get heated. I'll have to check on the Mach-E because I'm not sure if my knowledge is up to date. But I know at least from 2021 to 2023, the Mach-E did not even have heated seats as standard. And I think they may be offering it now. I'm not sure. But just proving the point that I think the Ariya comes pretty well equipped as standard.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think it's a underrated vehicle. Like very capable, very well performing in real world tests, and just like not very high value in terms of I think what was it for you know, this is a pretty good brand new deal, but you've pointed out on our podcast before there's some really good used deals on them right now too, like sub 25, right, which is crazy.
Yeah, and
for
that's the one thing
like a
I'll
year
say.
old.
Yeah, with the Ariya, I don't even know how to pronounce it, but with that car, one thing I will say is you're going to buy this for $32,500 right now. Next year, it's going to be $22,500. So something to consider. It's going to depreciate a lot. It might be better just buy used, but if you really want something new, it's not a bad option. But I think at that price, like for what you get 216 miles of range, which is fine, 214 horsepower. Like this is a base model. Front wheel drive, which I really don't like front wheel drive vehicles. I think that's an incorrect way to propel your vehicle, but not a bad vehicle. You can always upgrade to all wheel drive too, which I don't think is that much more. And you get way more horsepower, 0 to 65 seconds. So something to consider.
For sure. Awesome.
And we have one more deal, which is the Ford Mustang Mach-E. This isn't, I saved this for last because it's not that great. So a little anticlimactic, but Mach-E is $41,990 brand new. And that's with destination fees. They're crazy $2,000 destination fee, but they're doing 5,000 off on this car. So you're basically getting this out the door for $36,990 plus taxes and fees, which is a pretty good deal if you ask me. And I think the Mach-E had a lot of benefits, or sorry, upgrades for the 2024 model year. There's going to be more for 2025, but like now you get the nice premium headlights as standard, get upgraded wheels compared to the old one. So I think this is a pretty good option for someone wanting a slightly higher end electric crossover. Because that's the thing, I will say, the Mach-E, it is more money, a lot more money actually than an Equinox EV, but it's also a much more premium vehicle. It's just feels more higher end. I think it's definitely a notch above like an Equinox EV. So yeah,
Yeah,
but
I
I
mean,
think
it's
definitely
been
for
out there longer too, right? So there's a lot more Mach-E's out there. I think it's one of those things where you don't have to worry about like, first version issues sort of thing at this point.
yeah,
And Ford's got that new Ford Power Promise, I think, where if you want, they'll with some conditions, they'll give you a basic charger and get an electrician to help you install it,
oh,
So that's
that's pretty cool.
huge, right? Like for a lot of people who are like, oh, I don't know where I'm going to charge this thing. If you have a house, if you're a renter, well, tough luck. So maybe you have to hopefully be close to one of the new Iona stations or a Rove station or something like that. But outside of that, I think it's one of these things where people have all these sort of excuses of why they don't want an EV, but now I think there's so many things available to make it easy that it's kind of really not an issue anymore, which is awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the number one rules of behavior change is if you want someone to do something else, make it easy. And I think all these automakers are making it pretty easy to go electric.
For sure. For sure. I think I saw a survey recently that said nearly half of consumers in the US are interested in buying an EV sometime in the next couple of years. So, and I think we recently talked to Scott Case from Recurrent Auto, who collects a bunch of used EV data, and he says the market's going to increase, what is it, 5 times, over the next couple of years, like regardless, just because of the number of vehicles that are being rolling out of the factories. So it'll be exciting for sure.
Yeah, just think
Yeah.
of all the off-lease vehicles that are, even next year, there's going to be so many off-lease vehicles. Like people who got the Ariyas pretty early on their 18-month leases, people with like, I don't know, 2022 ID4s. I don't really like the ID4, so I probably wouldn't buy one. But if you want one, I guess you can. But there's going to be a lot of off-lease cars coming on the market, even like from Tesla too, because Tesla is going to, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of off-lease ones because they've been recently pushing their lease deals. So I don't know. I think it's going to be pretty exciting to see what's going to happen. And I think probably if we record this video next year at the exact same time, there's going to be way, way more crazy deals than what there are now. So
100%.
it will get a $40,000 Porsche Taycan. You might be able to get I bet you the Mercedes EQS, that's going to be under 30, 100%. I guarantee
So that's
you'll
your
be able to get an
prediction.
EQS.
For 2025,
Yeah,
your
I'm
prediction for
making all these
2025.
predictions right now. You'll be able to get Porsche Taycans for $40,000, high mileage, but you'll be able to get them for under $40,000. You'll be able to get Mercedes EQE and EQS. Both of them are going to be underneath $30,000. Nissan, I don't really know what's going to happen with them. I'd say maybe I feel like they're going to hit a bottom because they've already just toppled in value so quick. Maybe like 15,000 is going to kind of be the bottom. Subaru Solterra, BZ4X, those are all going to continue depreciating down just because they're objectively not great cars. And I'm not sure about what else. I think some might be too soon to say. Do you have any predictions off the top of your head?
With you on the Mercedes one, I think for me, one brand that doesn't get noticed, and I think one car that's going to do really well next year is the BMW i4. I think that's a dark horse in the market, and I think that's going to end up doing really, really well, I think, in the next year.
In used or new?
In new. In the used market, I think the best deal a year from now will probably end up being the Nissan Arias, or the Equinoxes.
Well, that's the thing.
Those will be the two call outs of like a year from now when we do this episode, I think the best deals will be an Ariya and an Equinox. Yeah.
Well, the thing I wonder about the Equinox is with how good the deals are now on them is that's definitely going to affect used values. When you can get,
Yeah.
the car's 35 new, but the fact that you can basically get one for 10,000 less or brand new with, I mean, just all the incentives they offer. It's like that's what makes me wonder now is if I buy a brand new Equinox EV from a dealership with all those incentives and get one for like 26, maybe with taxes and fees, how much could I trade that in to CarMax for? That's what I'm curious about. Because on paper, it's a $35,000 car. So I'm not sure.
I mean, it depends on what happens with the brands and the incentives. Because I'll say, for me as like a Rivian owner, you know, I got in with on a pre-order price, and then they ended up increasing the prices. And so for a little while, like I could have traded in my vehicle and made money because like, and I would say that I think GM is thinking about that because right now, you know, the market's not looking really good. The incentives are going to go away. I think they're going to end up marking them up a little bit more. So for a period of time, which might be just next year alone, you might see Equinox go up in MSRP, making all the other ones that are already out there in circulation just a little more valuable. Like the opposite of what we were seeing with the Teslas and them marking everything down and people immediately losing money just because of a markdown. So that would be my sort of out there, like my way far out there prediction would be people with the Equinoxes right now that are going in the deals right now are going to end up being in a better position. But overall, I think it's going to still be like the best deals out there is next year. I guess used Equinox or used Nissan Ariya. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd also say Audi e-tron GT is also going to be under 40 pretty soon. Probably before halfway through the year is my guess. That's based on the Audi, or that's based on the Porsche Taycan platform as well. So that's an interesting one. But I don't know if I have any other crazy predictions off the top of my head, but I think those are probably big ones. 40K Taycan, 30K EQB, and I would even say $20,000 is what the EQBs are going to go for. And those are the kind of crappy little, I don't want to say that word. I don't want to disparage Mercedes too much.
They're like the value models. Yeah, they're the economy.
Yeah, but it's like
models,
arguably not great. Like the car is just kind of really overpriced, not much range, okay chart. Like really, there's no reason anyone should buy that vehicle. I will say that. So that's my description of that vehicle. But I think those are going to be about 20,000 because they're already in the high 20s right now, and no one wants them just because they're like not that good.
Yeah.
So I think there's going to be some really cool deals though. But next year is definitely going to be totally different than this year in terms of deals. So I'm excited for it.
Cool. I am too. I think 2025 to 2030 is going to be the right half of the decade for EVs. It's going to see some really interesting things. So can't wait to kick it off.
All right. And there we go. That's our final episode of the year. Thank you, David, for doing this. And yeah, really excited for next year's episode.
Yeah. Happy New Year and catch you in 2025.